Lift every voice and sing, earth, heaven, ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies resound the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. March on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn has died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place from which our fathers died. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter, out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last. White gleam among my star is cast. God of our weary years, of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk of the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand. True to our God, true to our God, true to our native land, true to our native land.
Good evening, everyone. That was a beautiful rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing from the group named Committed from Huntsville, Alabama. And my name is Kaylin, and I would like to welcome you to the inaugural Xi Phi Lambda Martin Luther King Oratorical Competition. I am your host and moderator, Chris Kaylin, the Z93 Jams Weekend Diva. Tonight, the Xi Phi Lambda chapter showcases some of the best middle school students talented from Berkeley County, Charleston County, and Dorchester 2 and 4 school districts. The chapter received nearly 60 entries for the competition, and now you will hear from 11 middle school students representing Charleston County School of the Arts, DuBose Middle School, Hanahan Middle School, Harleyville Ridgeville Middle School, Rollings Middle School of the Arts, and Gregg Middle School. These students will battle it out through their speeches surrounding the theme, We Shall Overcome, to win cash prizes for the first place of $300, second place of $200, and third place of $100. The history of We Shall Overcome. Before we begin, we would like to thank and welcome two individuals who will give words of encouragement to our participants and viewers for the night's events. Representative Marvin R. Pendarvis, the Charleston District 113, which encompasses Charleston and Dorchester counties. Mr. Don R. Weston, the District Director for South Carolina chapters of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. Please welcome them.
Greetings. My name is Marvin Pendarvis. I'm a state representative here in the House of Representatives, House District 113, covering Charleston and Dorchester counties. I want to bring greetings to the middle school students who will be participating in the inaugural Dr. Martin Luther King Oratorical Contest that is being put on by the Xi Phi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I'm told that your theme for this year is We Shall Overcome. And that theme is important, and it's one that resonates with me deeply because it gives me perspective as to the history of our people, where we were, where we're at, and certainly recognizing that we still have ways to go, and that through that we will overcome any obstacles that will be in our way. That's my journey as I made my way to the House of Representatives. Not letting the things that were in front of me deter me from running the city council and losing the first time to ultimately landing a seat in the House of Representatives, overcoming every step of the way, because that's what's in our DNA. That's what our ancestors expect of us. And so I want to thank the Xi Phi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated for putting this competition on. It's important. Oratorical competitions give you great skills. It gives you skills in speaking, public speaking. It gives you critical thinking skills, and it really works on your ability to decipher information in a meaningful way. And so I want to commend you all on taking this journey. I participated in a number of oratorical competitions as I got older, when I was in college and law school, but I did not do it at the middle school stage. And so I commend you on having the opportunity to do that, and certainly look forward to seeing how you all use that throughout your lives, throughout your professional careers, throughout your educational matriculation, because it's going to be a skill that you will find valuable as you move forward. And so I want to thank you all for participating in this. If there's anything that myself or my office can ever do, certainly do not hesitate to reach out. But what you're doing is extremely important. Don't let anyone take that away from you, and enjoy this moment. It'll be one that you will cherish as you go forward and as you get older. Thank you.
Greeting, brothers, family, and friends. As a South Carolina District Director of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, it is my honor and privilege to extend greetings on behalf of the 800 plus active brothers here in the District of South Carolina. This evening is a very special one because the brothers of the Xi Phi Lambda chapter, located in Summerville, they're introducing their Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. oratorical competition to the public. This inaugural competition is designed for middle school students, allowing them a platform in which to present a well-crafted, well-created, well-presented oration. It allows them a time to express their thoughts on current and trending topics. This year, the students will be tackling the theme, We Shall Overcome. We ask our listening and our viewing audience to leave encouraging and supportive comments for our young participants in the chat box. Again, we thank you for your attention. We thank you for your attendance, and we certainly thank you for your support of this inaugural event.
Please welcome George Johnson, a member of Xi Phi Lambda and chairman of the Oratorical competition, who will give a brief history of the chapter and why the chapter developed this event.
Thank you, Chris. In the fall of 1983, several alumni brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, living in Somerville and Moncks Corner, South Carolina, were concerned about the academic performance of African American males in the school systems of both Berkeley and Dorchester counties. Additionally, the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha desired to see an increase in the level of community service which Black Greek-lettered organizations are uniquely suited to provide. On January 18, 1984, the Xi Phi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was chartered in Somerville, South Carolina. The oratorical competition affords the opportunity for students to express themselves beyond the traditional method of schooling, giving voice to their perspective and analysis of current-day societal matters. This is also how Xi Phi Lambda is promoting a much-needed, safe, and socially interactive environment amongst children. And now the rules for tonight's competition. The maximum number of points a contestant can earn is 100 points. He or she cannot receive more than 10 points for each item on which the judge or rater evaluates him or her. The categories for judging are self-confidence, voice and articulation, language, faithfulness to the theme, which is we shall overcome, content, organization of material, introduction and conclusion, enthusiasm, interest maintained, and memorization. All the contestants were made aware of the categories prior to tonight's competition. Chris?
All right. And now, the people that have the hardest job, the judges, and they will have to pick tonight's winners. So please meet Keith Benjamin, Director at the Department of Traffic and Transportation for the City of Charleston. Ms. Nashonda Hunter, Executive Director at the Charity Foundation. Mr. John Mitchell, Senior Strategic Communications Coordinator for HDR Incorporated. Roberto Stewart, retired Air Force veteran and student at Charleston Southern University. And Ms. Sierra S. Williams, IT Project Manager at NIWC Atlantic. And now, the moment that we have been waiting for, we are bringing you tonight's finalists, starting with Miss Kamani Gavin, 6th grade student from Harleyville Ridgeville Middle School.
For thousands and thousands of years, African Americans have been through slavery, discrimination, police brutality, and segregation. But that is only the beginning of what we had and have to go through as African Americans. But through all of that, our ancestors were still fighting for equality and to be treated the same as other races. They were still fighting back then, and it is our time to make a change in this world today for the better. Our ancestors were strong back then, walking in those streets with signs, and we are strong now, protesting about the same things they were protesting about. They came together in the time of need, so we must come together and stand tall, because we shall overcome. Now, I'm not oblivious to the fact that there are other ethnicities out here fighting for equal rights and to be treated the same. I'm also not oblivious to the fact that us protesting peacefully left our protesters battered by storms of persecutions and staggered by the winds of police brutality. By the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you, my friends, we have the difficulties of today and tomorrow. Being an African American is already hard on its own. even though you know there's nothing in your car, your license is suspended, and you've paid your car insurance, it is still very scary to see those blue lights behind you. There have been so many hate crimes against African Americans just because of our skin tone. Being told, go back to where you came from and you don't belong here, along with multiple other racial slurs, are just a day-to-day thing for us. And for African Americans to make up 12.7% of the US population, which is approximately 41.4 million people, and to have about 52% of African Americans in jail right now, just show how oppressed our race is today. Right now, there are about 16.6% of African Americans out of a job and make up about 50% of homeless people on this earth right now. That just shows how hard we have to work to get the bare minimum, a job. Some of us grow up without both parents in the household or none at all. Some of us don't have enough food on the table for everyone or enough money to go shopping for new clothes each year. Some of us don't even have enough money for anything and have to turn to stealing to survive. It is a very hard world to live in as an African American, but we try our best to get out. Even though all the odds are stacked up against us, about 9.5% of all businesses in the US are Black owned. Even though that is not as much as high as you may think, it is a starting point for the generations to come to look up to. It helps with having less African Americans homeless, out of a job, or in jail. So together we should rise above what people think of us, rise above the stereotypes about being Black, rise above the hardships and hard times we have to go through, and most importantly, rise above the odds that other people put on our race. We can never be satisfied until every African American's right to live is not, every African American's right to live is not, they don't have to think twice about it ending because of a misunderstanding. We can never go anywhere in life if we never push to overcome it. We will always be pushed into the sidelines if we don't fight. Fight for our ancestors who fought for us, and fight for those children who didn't get a chance to fight for their people. One day, all of our fighting will come to an end, and our freedom and equality will be set free. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, this is our hope. With this faith, we'll be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we'll be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we'll be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to climb up to free. Oh, man.
Great job, Kaimani, Gavin. Make sure you are showing some love in the comments. I see a lot of people. We have Nichelle Gavin, Kim Edwards, Z-Man, Low Country Youth Services, Deronda Singleton. So make sure you are commenting, showing some love and some support. So once again, congratulations, Kaimani Gavin, 6th grade student from Harleyville Ridgeville Middle School. Now, our next student up for the Oratorical contest, Hope Gavins, 7th grade student from Rawlings Middle School of the Arts. Congratulations, Hope. Let's hear it.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke these words with the intent to touch the hearts of those listening. Now, they mean more to Americans than he could have ever dreamed. From the day Pilgrims arrived on this very soil to now, in the 21st century, we've proudly called ourselves Americans. But when one looks back through our history, it is evident that we are far from perfect. Our textbooks speak for themselves. There's so much more to our story. Yet through it all, we overcame. When the Mayflower arrived in America, we overcame the ocean. With no knowledge of what may lay ahead, hope and grit drove us to where we are today. When our founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence, they braved Great Britain's mighty wrath. Passion for freedom and justice led to overcoming the impossible, and our nation itself is proof. When a Great Depression ended in a world war, we fought for democracy and equality to overcome dictatorship and cruelty. Throughout history, challenges have arisen, and each time been greeted by a perseverant nation. Some battles are easily won, some are tragically lost. Many are still being fought. Unexplainable sicknesses and needless deaths leave us in sorrow and grief. But every day, we are overcoming barriers that previously seemed unreachable. In just the past few centuries, we've transgressed the boundaries of space, mastered the use of electricity, and created peace where there was none. We've come so far from where we started, and yet there's still so much more to go. When Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, America was a divided nation. Truthfully, we always were, and always will be. But for every person who hates, there's another who loves. King spoke, not in spite, not with malice, but in truth and with kindness. Harold S. Kushner once said, "Do things for people, not because of who they are or what they do in return, but because of who you are." There's a lot of things to overcome in life. Injuries, failure, heartbreak, loss. The list goes on and on. But what truly matters in life is not what we have or what we want. It's the things we strive to overcome and the people we impact along the way. Everyone is fighting their own battles. We're not humans if we aren't. Our nation itself is quarreling about what's right and what's wrong. But whether we believe we'll win or lose, we're right. We determine the outcomes of our lives, and history is there to prove it. Throughout our past and our present, and when the future dawns, we have and shall overcome.
Awesome job, Hope. Once again, that was Hope Gillis, 7th grade student from Rollings Middle School of the Arts. Once again, thank you to everyone who is leaving comments. And if you are just joining us, this is the MLK Oratorical Competition. And the theme for this competition is We Shall Overcome. So moving on to the next student, we have Larry Andrew Goldsmith III, 8th grade student from Hanahan Middle School. Let's bring Larry on up.
We shall overcome. This was the beginning of one of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech. We shall overcome. They say the introduction of a speech should grab people's attention, so it must be well constructed and thought out. And still, Martin Luther King began this speech with 3 simple words, and then he repeated them. In every sentence, he just reminded them constantly, we shall overcome. As if 3 words alone could actually win the war against racism and the battle for civil rights. As if 3 words alone could actually win the war for civil rights. As if 3 words alone could actually change the way a nation treats its own people. As if 3 words alone could actually make any difference at all to how many people live their own life. We shall overcome. Then something happened, something that some people could never foresee. We did overcome. We actually won over some civil rights. We actually changed very slightly the way a nation treated us. We actually experienced a few differences the way we live our own life. There was and still is a problem though. We never fully overcame. We never fully won or changed or experienced as we should have, because Martin Luther King's battles long ago seem won and finished for good, but they are not. They're not finished because of police brutality systematically expressed against Blacks, Because of the inequality in the courtroom, a black man is more likely to get harsher sentences. The battles are not finished because, according to the Justice Lab, black people are almost 7 times more likely to be under supervision than white people. They are 5 times more likely than white people to be reincarcerated due to technical parole violations. Technical, meaning that there are some people who had parole revoked due to minor infractions, such as missing an appointment, rather than committing a new crime. The battle is still here because school segregations still exist, even though differently, because economic disparities are almost as much as they were back in the days, and sometimes even greater, because black people earn less money even if they work the same amount of hours. We shall overcome because the arch of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, said Martin Luther King. While we all thought that the battle was over, battles continued without anyone noticing, becoming over the years less important for the general public. We all believe the arch of the moral universe landed right into the country, but that's far from the truth. It has not landed yet. So once again, we, the black people of the United States of America, need that mantra Martin Luther King gave us. We need, once again, those 3 words in every sentence, repeat them constantly, reminding us that the battle is still on. So we shall overcome, because 3 words alone will make a difference now. Because 3 words alone will change things now. Because 3 words alone will win the war against racism and the battle for civil rights. So I say it loudly, we shall overcome. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome. Thank you.
I don't know about you guys, but so far I am blown away. Let's just take a moment to congratulate these students again. They are doing an amazing job. Congratulations again to Larry Andrew Goldsmith III. You are getting a lot of love in these comments on Facebook, so make sure you are encouraging these students. Make sure you are sharing this video so more and more people can see it, because this is awesome what's happening right now. Can y'all believe these are middle school students? Yeah, me either. So moving on, we have Nia James, a 7th grade student from Rollings Middle School of the Arts. Let's bring Nia up. I'm excited to hear it.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. A great leader, an Alpha Phi Alpha man, said this. His name? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A little bit about him. He was born on January 15th, 1929. He had 4 children by the names of Bernice, Yolanda, Dexter, and Martin Luther King III. He was originally named Michael. You know what? Let's skip the basic details. He became an icon for his peaceful protest for the civil rights movement. He risked his life countless times to convey his message. Then, on August 28th, 1963, he delivered his famous speech. You might have heard of it. I have a dream. When you think about it, it's crazy how all people of different ethnicities came to the nation's capital by foot, by plane, by bus, by car, by train, any mode of transportation you can think of. When they first saw young Martin, I bet they weren't expecting him to completely open their eyes on the race issue in America. But that's exactly what he did that Wednesday. His 17-minute speech about a dream he had was revolutionary. While I don't have a Nobel Peace Prize or an ounce of fame yet, I have a dream too. I have a dream that our country wasn't so corrupt. Even though conservatives are usually seen as the ones less open to change because conservative means opposed to change, we're also bigoted and closed-minded regardless of political party that we are turning us from the United States to the divided states. It pains me to know that we have become a reality TV show of sorts for other countries, except everything that's happening isn't scripted. However, I believe we can fix this issue. My generation, for one, is extremely tech-savvy. So let's all use our Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, whatever social media platform you have. Use it to spread awareness about the state of our nation. As for the older generations, look, I know you might not want to, but having civilized discussions with people of different beliefs can really help us see each other. You know, during the March on Washington, where MLK gave a speech, a certain song was sung. We shall overcome. Not only did that song originate in South Carolina, it actually originated right here in Charleston. You see, at the end of World War II, a cigar factory employed 900 Black women. That October, 1,200 workers quit due to discrimination and low pay. During the protest they held, they sang a hymn called I'll Overcome Someday. This song went on to become an anthem for future civil rights protests. Overcoming means to succeed in dealing with a problem. The problem of racism is still raging today, but I know by working together, we shall overcome. Thank you.
Awesome job. I don't know about you, but Nia definitely educated me about that. I did not know We Shall Overcome was founded in Charleston, South Carolina, at the cigar factory at that. If you did, make sure you drop it in the comments. Let me know. And let's check these comments out. They're showing a lot of love. These students are doing an amazing job. And once again, make sure you are sharing this video. Make sure you are showing a lot of love to these students because the topic for the inaugural oratorical competition is We Shall Overcome, and they are doing a really good job with this. Let me know what you think in the comments. But we're moving on to our next student, Miss Adelie Johnson, 8th grade student from Du Bois Middle School. Let's bring her up to the stage.
One thing we are facing right now as a society is racism in politics. If you have noticed anything by now, it is probably the protests and the fighting. A quote from Martin Luther King Jr. states, "Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." In this quote, Dr. King is saying, you cannot fight someone because they hurt someone. No matter how hard it may be, you cannot. We must hold the peace. One thing we all must overcome together is racism. Some people say Black lives matter, and of course they do. Some people say no lives matter, or white lives matter. The real thing is all lives matter. It does not matter if you're Black, white, Mexican, or any other race. We are all just people. Dr. King said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. This shows we shouldn't point out the splinter in someone else's eye when we have a plank in our own. This is important because there are things happening around us right now that we don't seem to understand that we are making worse with our actions. We as a society need to accept our differences, all while we need to band together to become stronger than ever. Something I have realized now is that no matter how hard you try to change someone, it will never work. We as a nation need to overcome what brings us to chaos and fighting, and transform it into a united nation. Dr. King believed this could happen when he said, I believe the unearned truth and unconditional love will have the final word. Together, we can make the world a better place. We, the people of America, can work on creating an equal society. You and I can wish the world were perfect and that there were no mistakes, but that will never happen. Every time someone looks at a person that is different from them and sees nothing important, that is a mistake. Everyone is important, whether you see it on the outside or on the inside. Judging one another doesn't create any positivity if you can't tell. Look around you and see all the people. They act nothing alike, nor do they look anything alike. You could try being another person for a day, but the second you walk a mile in their shoes, you realize you are nothing alike. You could be best friends, but you still will be different. We, the people of America, need to stop looking at each other with disgust and hatred. We need to look at each other with love and kindness. No matter who you are, what race or gender you are, or what color, I believe, as Dr. King said, that we will overcome. Thank you.
Job, Adelie. That was Adelie, an 8th grade student from Du Bois Middle School. And now we have next coming up Rajan a 7th grade student from Du Bois Middle School. And also make sure you are donating. We have a link that will be coming up at the bottom. Perfect, there it goes. Don't you love technology? But make sure you are donating to that link to make all of these things possible, especially scholarships. A lot of this will be going towards scholarships, so make sure you're doing that. But now we have coming to the stage Mr. Rajan Lewis Jr., a 7th grade student from Du Bois Middle School.
Shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. When I think about the legacy of the civil rights movement, this song comes to mind. It was sung on the front lines of protest where people fought for a better tomorrow. A tomorrow where young people wouldn't have to go through the same trials and tribulations that they did. A tomorrow truly free of Jim Crow's sting. A tomorrow where they could go to any school, restaurant, or movie theater they wanted to. A tomorrow where their simple presence wasn't seen as a problem to white people. They believed in the courage of their convictions and fought to overcome them. I think back to Dr. King, who, in 1963, during the March on Washington, expressed a dream that little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. For this to happen, segregation would have to be overcome. I think of Emmett Till, who, in 1955, was brutally murdered for allegedly flirting with a white woman in Money, Mississippi. That same year, Rosa Parks was arrested for not giving up her seat to a white man in Montgomery, Alabama. I think of Medgar Evers, who was the first field secretary of the NAACP, but was assassinated outside of his home in 1963. In 1964, during the March on Washington, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was approved, which helped begin the end of segregation. In 1968, the Voting Rights Act was approved, which helped African Americans get equal access to voting rights and political power. Sadly, in 1968, Dr. King was assassinated, but his dream lived on in the hearts of the people who fought with him for equal rights even after his death. People still fought for change. People still marched. The songs still beat in their hearts saying, "We shall overcome." Today, we see the remnants of Dr. King's dream and the civil rights movement in the eyes of young activists who have assumed the mantle of Evers, King, Parks, Brother Malcolm, Septima Clark, and so many others. The dream has shifted from eating in the same restaurants and drinking from the same fountains as white people to making sure that our lives are respected and protected. We are fighting to let the world know that our lives matter. And this generation was, like the previous generations, this generation was prompted by the senseless killing of black men and women. Names like Sandra Bland, Sean Bell, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Breonna Taylor, Philando Castile, George Floyd, and far too many people have become rallying cries for this generation of civil rights leaders. This generation has decided to become the next, has decided to treat the next as the civil rights leaders did for us. This fight won't be easy, but nothing worth doing ever is. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Thank you.
Great job, Rajan. I don't know about you, but I am appreciating the fact that they took the time to do a lot of research. So let's give them a round of applause for taking the time to do research for this oratorical competition, because that's not easy, and to just write all this down and to just capture this. So once again, let's give these students a round of applause. They are doing awesome. So now the next student that we have up is Laura Oakes, a 7th grade student from Rollings Middle School of the Arts. Let's bring her up to the stage.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., 1963. In these days, all we see is darkness. All we see is hate. Child abuse, racism, mental illness, hatred just for the sake of hating, suicide rates, police brutality, bullying, war, murder. The list goes on. This is the kind of darkness that runs our world. Yet sometimes the world seems to pass over these problems, shut them out because they're too hard or too taboo to talk about. This should not be the standard. We should be taught about them, want to help at any possibility, learn to overcome. Every day, we see people being killed, being abused, being discriminated against, being shut down because they don't fit the normal stereotype. This isn't something we can live with for any longer. September 15th, 1963. This is when a church in Birmingham, Alabama was bombed. 4 young African American girls, ages 14 and 11, were killed, others severely injured. May 25th, 2020. George Floyd, a 46-year-old African American man, was killed after he was a victim to police brutality. March 13th, 2020. A 26-year-old African American woman named Breonna Taylor was shot by a white police officer and died. January 23rd, 1957. 24-year-old Willie Edwards was murdered by members of the Ku Klux Klan. May 31st through June 1st, 1921. The Tulsa Race Massacre lasted for a day. Although this may not seem like a lot of time, during the day that this took place, 36 people were killed. This massacre was initiated by the Ku Klux Klan. September 6th, 2018. 26-year-old Botham Jean was killed in his own home when an off-duty police officer walked into the wrong apartment. October 12th, 2019. Tatiana Jefferson, 28, was shot in her home by police. August 28th, 1955. Emmett Till was murdered and disfigured by members of the Ku Klux Klan. He was just 14 at the time of his death. June 12, 1963, 38-year-old Medgar Evers was murdered in his own driveway. March 20th, 1981, Michael Donald, a 19-year-old African-American man, was beaten and hung by members of the Ku Klux Klan. This is the kind of world that we live in. A kind of world where you can kill and get away with it. A kind of world where when a child dies, it's just like every other day. A kind of world where you can be killed for saying the truth. A kind of world where you have to be scared for your own life, even in your own home. A world where you're terrified by the police, even though they are the ones supposed to be protecting you. A world where you don't know who you can trust, even if it's your own family. We need this world to change. We need to overcome.
I don't know about you, but I am super happy that they asked me to be a moderator, because judges, how are you going to go about picking the top 3? The pressure right now is pretty intense. So I'm glad I'm not in your shoes, because it's pretty tough. But make sure you are donating. Once again, make sure you are checking out the link at the bottom so you can donate. It's easy through Venmo, PayPal, or any other option. Well, those are 2 options, Venmo and PayPal. But you can send it those ways. Make sure you're donating, because these scholars definitely deserve scholarships. So make sure you're donating, giving back, and doing things of that nature. But our next student that we have coming up, Megan Wells, 7th grade student from Charleston County School of the Arts. Let's bring her up to the stage.
What shall we overcome? I have faith that the people of the world including myself, shall overcome bickering about our problems and start focusing on the solutions. The world should start connecting instead of tearing each other to pieces, bit by bit. In this past year, have we not seen what we've done to each other? Racism, political discrimination, war, anger, hate. Can we not stop fighting? Can we start over? What if we all just sit down and open our eyes to what's happening? We can agree to disagree. However, our ability to be mature and intelligently discuss issues has disappeared tremendously. It is necessary to take this time and put ourselves in other people's shoes. People are truly suffering out there. People have lost their jobs, are struggling to survive. COVID has taken lives, our loved ones. It's not about Republicans versus Democrats. It's not about good versus bad. Overall, we are just people. People with opinions. Let us not fight about nitpicky things and playing the blame game. Don't point fingers. Let us focus on the true problems. People's jobs, their families, and peace. Put our anger aside and focus on fixing this world. Almost 1 in 5 people lost their livelihood and had no place to earn a wage after COVID-19. When somebody loses their job, they have no way to make any money, no way to pay bills, to feed their families or themselves, to survive. There are many children across America whose only source of food was from school meals. However, due to COVID-19, these schools shut down and these children had no way to eat. These are the problems that matter most. It's not that hard to realize. Our country is an outstanding place. We have the resources to control and fix this. How come we aren't? It's because we are so focused on fighting. Let's change that. I have faith that we shall overcome our differences, be able to talk about our problems and focus on the solutions to make things better. It has been a very trying year. But now it is time for all of us to come together as one so we can live peacefully and prosperously again.
Okay, Megan, that was awesome. Make sure you are checking out these comments on Facebook and also make sure you are sharing this inaugural oratorical competition that is brought to you by the Xi Phi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha. These students are doing great. Check out the comments. Make sure you are encouraging, sending kind words. Once again, sharing this video because they are doing awesome and everyone should definitely see this. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty safe about the future. So after hearing these speeches, the next that we have coming up is Mary Maxwell Whitehead, 7th grade student from Rollings Middle School of the Arts. Let's bring her up to the stage.
This is America, a phrase people hear often, but what does it mean? It could mean the home of the accepted, the home of the free, the home of the rich. Or it could mean home of the unaccepted, home of the discriminated, or home of the poor. We live in a country where people are accepted by few, in a world where we are still stuck with the same ideas shown to us from decades ago, where children are born into poverty and raised in cars, where people will ignore a serious situation to stop from making a promise they can't keep. Where women must double check how they dress before they can walk out of their own house. Where many are still fearful of their lives when they are pulled over. Is this really what we want represented when we hear of America? Instead, do we want to remember the ones who fight every day for us, who have lost or even risked their lives for us? The fight for freedom. But not everyone sees the same thing. They see the desire to fit in, the struggle to make the right decision, the attempt to support their family, while others make the beauty standards, make the rules, and have never had to worry if they were going to be able to eat for the next week. But we will overcome. We will rise up and change the way we view America. We won't see it as a place of lost dreams, but a place of new beginnings. So this is America, not the place where you will be shamed for your beliefs, but a place where differences are celebrated. A place to help your neighbor. A place to feel accepted. So we won't discriminate or mock. We won't hurt the hurting. We won't tear apart your self-esteem. We must be patient with each other, because you can't change an entire nation in a few weeks, a few months, or even a few years. It will take time, but we can come together and we can love people for who they are, because this is America. We will welcome people with open arms. We will feed the helpless. We will help the helpless, feed the hungry, and comfort the hurting. We will take pride in our diverse cultures. We will build upon our foundation and reflect upon our past. We can respect our morals and strengthen them along the way. We can rise. We can value lives and take no one for granted. We can unite and restore faith in our nation. We will overcome because we stand with America, we love America, and it's time to change.
Great job, Mary Maxwell Whitehead. An amazing job. Once again, make sure you are sharing this video. The theme for this oratorical competition is We Shall Overcome, and they are doing a great job with this theme. And a fact that we learned earlier, did you know the song originated in Charleston at the cigar factory, to be exact? So once again, make sure you are sharing this video and make sure you are donating to the PayPal and to Venmo, because these students definitely deserve the scholarships. But we are winding down to our final two students. And once again, judges, I would hate to be in your shoes right now. This competition is amazing. To me, everyone is a winner, but I know it can't happen like that, but we're getting ready for the next student coming up. And that is Bella Adore Williams, a 7th grade student at Charleston County School of the Arts. Let's bring Bella up to the stage.
Overcoming is to get the better of. Meanwhile, history has shown me something unique. History has shown me that overcoming is not just to get the better of, not just to demand change, but to make sure that you see change. To make sure that the same thing will never happen to your children or their children. To show that you as a people are stronger than the things that oppress you. That you may have a chip on your shoulder, but you will not let that chip break you. You're making a promise to yourself and future generations that you will overcome, that you shall overcome. And in these challenging months, America has exercised its right to protest, just like we did in the past. The Civil Rights March in Washington, the Stonewall riots, the Women's Suffrage Parade, and now, amidst a global pandemic, Black Lives Matter protests. And as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in his last speech, "I've been to the mountaintop," he said, "Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is in the right to protest for right." And that is a greatness that we still uphold today. We've been through many challenges when it comes to our rights, but the challenge doesn't lie in wanting rights, protection, or better safety laws. The difficulty lies in making people listen to you. You don't have to be Colin Kaepernick or John Carlos or Tommy Smith to have an impact. You can raise your fist in your heart and scream Black Lives Matter from your couch. And as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in his speech, "Where do we go from here? Chaos or community?" He said, "Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, be a trail. If you can't be a sun, be a star. Because it isn't by size that you win or fail. So be the best of whatever you are." Even though some things that may challenge us aren't new, that doesn't mean that we can't move forward. And just because we're in a global pandemic, that doesn't mean that we can't make change. And just because some things may break us, that doesn't mean that we can't overcome. We have a history of innovation, and we can't stop now. So remember, overcoming is more than getting the better of. As Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in his letter from Birmingham jail, he wrote, "We know through painful experience that rights are never voluntarily given by the oppressor. They must be demanded by the oppressed. So stay safe, stay woke, and remember, we shall overcome." Those 3 little words changed lives.
Awesome job, Bella. Let's give Bella some love in the comments. Make sure you are sharing this video. Make sure you are showing them love in the comments because these students are doing a great job. But can you believe we are on our last speech of the night? It's went by so fast. These students have been doing an amazing job. So, Tyler Williams, 8th grade student at Gregg Middle School. Let's bring Tyler up to the stage.
As the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools." As we speak, America is perishing because we act as fools and cannot respect one another. Although Dr. King helped bring America together, he could not do it all alone. It starts with us, you and me. We shall overcome. We shall overcome the darkness, and we shall bring America to the light. We shall expose racism in America and work to change others' personal opinions. Amanda Gorman said it best in her amazing poem. She says, "We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and in the norms and notions of what just is not always justice. And yet, the dawn is ours. Before we knew it, somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished." Amanda also said, "We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of a man. And so we lift our gazes, not to what stands between us, but what stands before us, because we know to put our futures first. We must first put our differences aside." As Americans, we struggle because of the last generation and the generations before that. What most don't understand is racism is not a self-learned quality. You have to be in a racist environment or be taught racism by a predecessor. I was lucky to be born in a household of respect, regardless of culture, color, or character. A household that teaches me rights and wrongs. See, what Amanda Gorman was saying is that previous generations have started this movement, and this is our chance to finish it together. Most children socialize with the same race, and it's just normal now. Even though we have equal rights, we are still divided, and it's time for a change. At school, I challenge everyone to socialize with a brother or sister of a different race. This does not have to be our narrative. Let's break the cycle. My Generation Z brother and sister, let's do what is right. Let's correct the mistakes made by our ancestors. As Americans, we reflect on the past too often. We need to put our right foot forward and move on. The past is in the past, and we cannot change that. As a young black male in America, life is difficult. Whether it's teachers treating us a certain way or getting stereotyped just because of the melanin in our skin. Just because they don't want to see us dream. Like the great Harriet Tubman said, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars, to change the world. And I am a dreamer. My dream is that in 2021, America will undergo a phase where Americans, regardless of culture, color, or background, will unite and stand together. To make my dream come true, we must put our priorities aside and think about each other. We will overcome, and we shall overcome, and finish what the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. started together.
Great job. That was awesome, Tyler Williams. What a way to end this oratorical competition. And once again, let's show some love to all of the students that participated. We had Kamani Gavin, sixth grade student from Harleyville Ridgeville Middle School. Hope Gillis, seventh grade student from Rollings Middle School of the Arts. Larry Andrew Goldsmith III, eighth grade student at Hanahan Middle School. Nia James, seventh grade student from Rollings Middle School of the Arts. Adelie Johnson, eighth grade student from DuBose Middle School. Rajon Lewis Jr., seventh grade student from DuBose Middle School. Laura Oates, seventh grade student from Rolling Middle School of the Arts. Megan Wells, seventh grade student from Charleston County School of the Arts. Mary Maxwell Whitehead, seventh grade student from Rollings Middle School of the Arts. Bella Adora Williams, seventh grade student from Charleston County School of the Arts. And Tyler Williams, eighth grade student at Gregg Middle School. Let's give a round of applause and some comments to the parents that helped their students and made sure that they got it done. So once again, you got to give some love to the parents. And thank you again to the Xi Phi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha for making this possible. And now the people who have the hardest job, the judges, it's time for them to deliberate. But right now, I would love to present to you the We Shall Overcome. This is by Martell Morrison, and I would love to introduce it to you. So check it out, judges. You have the toughest job right now, but I know you'll make the best decision. Good luck, everyone.
Evening. On behalf of the Xi Phi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, thank you all for tuning in to the inaugural Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Oratorical Competition. To each of our 11 finalists who succeeded to this phase of the competition, each one of you presented stellar work, show great promise, and I am certain that you will be the next generation of impactful, thought-provoking leaders, which we desperately need today. Thank you to our hosts, Ms. Chris Kalin, our judges, Mr. Keith Benjamin, John Mitchell, Ms. Nashonda Hunter, Ms. Sierra Williams, and Mr. Roberto Stewart. Representative Marvin R. Pendarvis, South Carolina District Director, Brother Don Weston. I also like to take this time to commend and congratulate the committee who worked tirelessly on this wonderful event. Brother George Johnson, our chairperson, Brother Jermaine Joyner and Ron Ravenel, our co-chairs, Brothers Bobby Tichy, Bernie Mazik, Kenneth Wilson, Kevin Roberson, Marcus Clark, Laketrick Harris, Damian Pringle, and Byron Wright. A special thank you to Brother Reverend Jared B. Washington of Legacy Graphics and Designs, LLC, whose work is behind all of the graphics seen tonight as well as the individual flyers for the event. A special thank you to Brother Donnell Miller, who composed the commercial for the event. And lastly, but certainly not least, a gracious thank you to one of our sponsors, Chick-fil-A of Main Street in Somerville, South Carolina. We look forward to this being an annual event, and God willing, we will see you next year in person. While our judges take a final moment to tally, please listen to the theme of our event in song by the award-winning Oakwood University Aeolians from Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Crazy times, huh? On March 11th, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. And it seems as if the world has come to a screeching halt. And in times like these, it's natural for everyone to be anxious and scared and not really sure of the future. There's a song that got us through one period in time. And I believe that same song can get us through this period. So from my family, the Aeolians, and myself, we just simply want to say, hold on, let's keep each other in prayer. And at the end of this, we can say we use this time to reset, to relax, and to recalibrate and become more connected with the community. It's such a beautiful thing. I've seen more of my neighbors in these last few weeks than I've ever seen. So hold on, and we'll get through this together.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we'll walk hand in hand. We shall
probably be great if I unmute my mic. But that was an awesome rendition of We Shall Overcome. But now I think it's time what everyone has been waiting for. And once again, make sure you are sharing this video. Once again, thank you to all of the participants that was a part of this first annual oratorical competition. So you are all winners in our eyes. You all did a great job, and thank you for participating. But now we are going to bring George up so he can announce the winners.
Thank you, Chris. Again, great job from all of our finalists. Yes, the judges had a hard job, but they did come back with the information. And so we're going to start off with third place. Can we get a virtual drum roll?
Yes, we can. Let's do it.
Third place is Bella Adore Williams. Let's everybody give Bella.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Bella.
Bella, do you want to say anything to your audience?
Thank you so much, you guys. This was a very fun speech to present to you. I am so very thankful for this.
Awesome job. Congratulations.
Thanks, Bella's parents. I've been just calling people by the students' first name and their parents, but are your parents there? They want to wave from the side of the screen?
Yes.
Yay, Bella!
Hey, parents.
Yes, yes. Our second place. Chris, you did well with that drum roll. Let's do it again.
All right, let's do it again.
Second place goes to Megan Wells.
Awesome job, Megan. Great job.
Megan, what would you like to say to your audience?
I've just been very thankful for this opportunity, and I'd like to say congratulations to anybody who just even submitted their speech. And thank you.
Megan's parents, are you nearby?
Awesome job.
Thank you. And now, our first place winner. Our first place is Nia James.
Awesome. Congratulations.
It's just full of laughs. Nia, what would you like to share with the audience?
Thank you so much. I personally think everyone who participated did really well. This was really hard to do, and I'm proud of everyone who even submitted an essay.
Anyone from your side want to wave and so
Thank you so much.
Your family is proud of you, and so are we. We're proud of all of our contestants.
Yes.
Again, thank you all. We could not have done this without you, Chris.
Listen, this was great. Thank you for having me be a part of this. I'm so happy I didn't have to be a judge. But congratulations again to all the participants. Congratulations to the winners. You did an amazing job. Like I said earlier, I feel very secure in the future. Once again, thank you to the Xi Phi Lambda chapter. An amazing job putting this together. This was great. I can't wait to see next year. I was blown away. Great job. Thank you.
You know, one more person that we need to thank. You know, it's very interesting with all this technology and stuff. And one person that you don't see is Rashawn Young, who is in Florida. You know, you're in Charleston, Chris. I'm in Orangeburg. The students are all over different places, and so technology worked for us. Praise God, because you know you never know.
He did a great job. It was flawless. You know, knowing technology, anything could go wrong at any point. So thank you to the person behind the scenes that you don't see. An amazing job. This was a awesome show.
Thank you. Again, we can't wait till next year. Check us out January 2022. Can't believe I'm saying 2022, where we will host this in January during Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. Again, I'm George Johnson, and you are?
I'm Chris Kaylin. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Everyone have a good evening.